Careful, I get attached to hardworking guys very fast.
My name is Benjamin, and I was a 27-year-old guy with nothing to lose except the future I'd already given up on. I grew up poor. Working-class family, single mother, all the struggles that come with not having much. I dropped out of college after 2 years because I couldn't afford it and my mom needed help. For a while, I worked whatever jobs I could find. Fast food, retail, warehouse work. Nothing felt permanent. Nothing felt like it was building toward anything. Then I decided to start my own business. It was a landscaping and yard maintenance company. I started with a used truck, some basic equipment I bought used, and a willingness to work 18-hour days. The first year was brutal. I could barely pay for gas and equipment. But slowly, by my third year, I'd built something real. I had regular clients. I had hired 2 guys to help with larger projects. I was actually making a living wage and building something that was mine. That's when I met her. I was hired to do a major yard renovation for the community heart garden, a community space in the south side of the city where people grew vegetables, flowers, and a sense of belonging. The current garden beds were overgrown, the pathways were cracked, and the whole space felt like it was slowly being reclaimed by nature. The woman who ran it was named Victoria. She was in her early 40s, I'd guess, with silver streaking through her dark hair and an expression that suggested she'd seen hard things and decided to build beautiful things anyway. She was dressed practically. Jeans, a work shirt, dirt under her fingernails, and she was standing in the middle of the garden looking at the work that needed to be done with an expression of deep concern. I approached her to talk about the scope of work. "This is ambitious," I said, gesturing at the garden. "How long has it been since major work?" 5 years, she said. "We've been limping along, doing what we can with volunteer labor. But this year we got a grant, and it's time to actually rebuild this place properly." I spent an hour walking the garden with her, listening to her vision. She talked about the community members who used the space. She talked about the kids who came here to learn where food came from. She talked about the elderly people who found peace in this garden. She wasn't just trying to fix a yard. She was trying to preserve a sanctuary. "I can do this," I said. "And I'll take good care of this place. I understand what it means to you." The project took 3 weeks. I brought my 2 employees, but mostly I worked the project myself because I wanted to do it right. I rebuilt the pathways with new gravel and edging. I constructed new raised garden beds from cedar. I repaired the irrigation system. I took out overgrown plants and pruned everything that remained. And Victoria was there almost every day. She brought me lunch. She worked alongside me sometimes, doing smaller tasks. She told me about the garden's history, how it started after her own daughter's death. Her daughter had loved gardening, loved growing things. After she died, Victoria had channeled that love into creating a place where other people could experience that same joy of growth and creation. She would have loved seeing this place restored, Victoria said one day as we worked. She was always about making beautiful things. Just like you. I looked at her, surprised by the compliment. "I'm just doing a job," I said. "No," Victoria said. "You're doing it with care. You're noticing details. You're thinking about people. That's not just a job. That's love." When the project was finished, Victoria invited me to stay for the grand reopening celebration. The community came out, probably 50 people, ranging from kids to elderly folks. They walked through the garden, planted seeds, sat on new benches, and expressed genuine gratitude for the work I'd done. Victoria introduced me to people, telling them I was the person who'd made the garden beautiful again. That's when I realized I didn't want to leave. Not the garden. Victoria. I stayed after everyone else had gone home. We sat on one of the new benches, looking at the garden as the sun was setting. "I want to be honest with you about something," Victoria said, and there was a nervous energy to her voice. "I'm 43 years old. I've been alone for a long time. And I'm probably going to feel attachment to someone like you very quickly because I recognize kindness and work ethic and genuineness, and those things are rare. So I'm warning you, be careful. I get attached to hard-working guys very fast." I understood what she was saying. She was warning me that if I spent more time around her, she'd develop feelings. She was giving me an out before things got complicated. Instead, I said something that surprised both of us. "Then I'll stay tonight," I said. "Not for anything other than to sit here with you. But I'll stay." And I did. We sat in that garden until the stars came out. We talked about her daughter. We talked about my mother. We talked about the homes we'd lost and the places we'd found that felt like sanctuary. We talked about fear and longing and the parts of ourselves we don't show most people. When it got too cold to sit outside anymore, she invited me in for tea. We sat in her kitchen, a warm, lived-in space with photos of her daughter on the walls, and we kept talking until 2 in the morning. I didn't kiss her that night. I didn't presume anything. I just sat with her and listened, and when it got late enough that staying any longer would have been inappropriate, I left with a promise to see her again soon. We started spending time together outside of any work context. I'd show up on her porch on Saturday mornings with coffee. We'd walk through the neighborhood. We'd go to farmers' markets. We'd cook dinner together at her house. Slowly, gradually, without rushing, something was building between us. She was right. I fell hard and fast. There was something about her steadiness, her kindness, her ability to see beauty in difficult things. There was something about the way she looked at me like I mattered. Like my effort and my work and my presence actually meant something. About 2 months after we met, I kissed her. We were in the garden, actually, in the early evening. The place was quiet. The sun was setting. And I just couldn't hold it in anymore. "I'm in love with you," I said. "I know you warned me about getting attached, but I'm warning you back. I'm staying. I'm here. If you'll have me." Victoria looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I'm scared," she said, "of the age difference. Of how fast this is happening. Of my heart breaking again." "I know," I said. "But I'm not going anywhere. I promise you that." She kissed me then, and it was tender and careful and completely honest. The first year was beautiful and also complicated. There were difficult conversations about children. I wanted them, she couldn't have more. We had to grieve that together. There were moments where the age difference felt real, when she had aches and pains I didn't understand, when I wanted to stay out late and she needed to sleep, when we had different energy levels. But we worked through it. We talked about it. We chose each other deliberately, again and again. I met her extended family. She met my mother, and the two of them became immediate friends, bonding over their shared experience of being alone for too long. Victoria helped my mother, who'd been struggling with medical bills, and she did it with such grace that my mother didn't feel pitied, she felt loved. I became a permanent fixture in the garden. I maintained it, improved it, and built it into something even more beautiful. The community came to know me as Victoria's boyfriend Benjamin, and people would come up to thank me for the work I did. One day, a woman stopped me while I was working and said something that stuck with me. "You saved this garden," she said. "Not the physical work, though that was beautiful, but you brought love back to it. You and Victoria together brought love back to this place that needed it." After 2 years of dating, I proposed. I did it in the garden, naturally. I set up a simple dinner on one of the benches we'd rebuilt. I told her about how meeting her had changed my entire life. Not just romantically, but fundamentally. She'd shown me that building something meant more than just making money or creating a business. It meant creating a life filled with purpose and beauty and connection to community. I got down on one knee, and I asked her to marry me. She said yes while laughing and crying at the same time. We got married a year later in the garden, in front of the community that had become our family. My business had grown. I now employed 5 people, and we'd expanded to do full community development projects, not just residential work. Victoria and I worked together on several of them, creating green spaces throughout the city. But the original garden remained our favorite. It was where we'd met. It was where she'd warned me about her attachment. It was where I'd promised to stay. 5 years after we met, Victoria and I were sitting on our favorite bench, now a permanent fixture made of reclaimed wood that my team had built, watching the sunset. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The age difference? The complexity?" I thought about it honestly. "No," I said. "I regret every moment before I met you. I regret the years I thought I was just building a business. I was actually waiting to meet you. I was waiting to learn what it meant to build something together." something with purpose beyond profit. Victoria took my hand. "That's the most romantic thing you've ever said," she said. "It's the most honest thing I've ever said," I replied. "And it's true." We sat there as the light faded, watching the garden weed rebuilt together. A young couple was watering the vegetable beds. An elderly woman was sitting on a bench with her grandchild. Kids were running through the pathways, their laughter echoing off the fence. Life was growing here. Real, meaningful life. And it had started with a warning, a promise to stay, and a woman brave enough to risk attachment to a hard-working guy who turned out to be worth the risk. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more heartfelt tales, and drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Thanks for being part of the Unscripted Stories community.